2, 1, you're live.
Good morning, Summa scholars. Welcome to the Daily Summa. Today is April the 14th. Is that right?
No.
What is it?
15th.
Today is Tuesday, April the 15th, during Holy Week. Welcome to Holy Week. Good morning, Joe. Are you on the, are you mic'd up?
No.
Okay, but they'll still be able to hear you.
A little bit, probably.
Folks, we're down here in the basement looking out at the beautiful mountains, listening to this bird that's going crazy this morning. Hope you can hear the bird.
Yesterday.
Could not.
Not really.
That's unfortunate. It's so pretty. So how's things going, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had a little Wi-Fi mishap again. And so we have to move it down here. That's why we are hoping to build up subscribers and views so that we can get some kachingos and get our own Wi-Fi in our own place to do this Daily Summa. We'll see if that works out. We'll see if the Lord is so kind as to do that for us. I think that pipe is done. Do we have anything to report?
Figure out what it's supposed to be.
Let's just move it somewhere. I'm at a new place, and so I have not unpacked everything, nor do I have a place to set the map out. In the Hermitage place I was in before, I could set the map out on a separate table, but there is no separate table, so the map thing is a little bit confused. But you get the idea. We're moving through the desert in this beaver galleon here and heading towards Good Friday, which is 2 days away. And then after that, the octave. Do you have off work Good Friday?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if we should, here, let's have a business meeting right here in front of everybody. Should we, now we're not doing the Daily Summa on all the octaves. That's already established. So the octave of Easter, the octave of Christmas, and then we're not going to do it on the octave of Pentecost either. But what do you think about Good Friday and Holy Saturday being a no-fly zone?
Just not doing it?
Yeah, for Good Friday and Holy Saturday.
I kind of like it.
I mean, it seems appropriate.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
quite think it through before, but now that we're here, I see it's a holy day. People are off work.
Right.
It's very prayerful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably wise. It didn't really come up before, but that makes sense.
So then tomorrow would be the last Daily Summa for 10 days, for a decade of days.
Wait, no.
Tomorrow's Wednesday. Oh, you're right.
Tomorrow and Thursday.
Tomorrow and Thursday would be the last day. And then on Holy Thursday, I always do a Passover Seder, as I did in the monastery before. And that's somewhat common among Catholics to do a Maundy, Thursday Passover Seder. So I'll have to prep for that. So that's fine. We get finished in the morning and then I do my preps. So tomorrow and the next day will be the last Daily Summa for a little while. And then we'll be back and see you guys on the other side of the Easter octave.
10 days.
10 days. Pretty good. We'll see if you guys keep watching after we get back. You know, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Well, the conventional wisdom is you have to keep feeding the beast. And that's exactly what we're trying to counteract here in the Daily Summa. And everything in the schedule that I'm been working on is against that need to keep the people. If you remember, Jesus would say things and large groups of his followers would leave him. And it's just going to have to be that way. We're going to have to trust God that people will come back and begin to watch, because we have to do things with the telos, the main objective being the church calendar and our life in Christ, the kingdom visible on earth. not with our main goal being grasping at followers and money. If the followers come and the money comes, that's beautiful. That's a God saying, good job, pat on the back, very nice. If not, then not. That's just going to have to be how it is. And I know Joe is in agreement with that because we have discussed it many times before. That's the ethic on this beaver galleon.
Oh. Right. Finish your thought.
That's it.
Okay. I sent you an email today.
Okay.
And there's an email that we got from one of our local subscribers. So you should look at your email. Check it out.
I have no Wi-Fi at the Andrew Casa, but I will check it out as soon as I get to well, I'll check it out right now.
I think you should read out some of his email.
Oh,
Because it's nice.
That's exciting. Let's see what we got here. Guys, you're gonna be surprised along with me. My taxes. Wonderful.
Hey, I'm sorry.
I don't see a Joseph email.
There's one from Craig Kinsey today. I forwarded it to you.
Ah, it's a forward.
Yeah, it's there's a part after the $20 thing. Read that part, I think.
After watching the Daily Summa for a few weeks, I wanted to show appreciation for your efforts. Although I am Catholic, my knowledge of the Bible is minimal. Honestly, one of my greatest attractions is Craig's vast vocabulary. What is a good way to ask questions?
I told him commenting on YouTube or locals. But YouTube preferred.
YouTube's preferred, just
You
because.
look at those more regularly.
Yeah, and also the YouTube comments do the algorithm and kind of push it out to more people. Likes, subscribes, and comments. Mainly likes and comments, right, Joe?
All of it is good, but likes and comments are good for the individual video,
Yeah, when you like and comment, the reason people say that all the time is because it goes into the algorithm and then it pushes it out to more. The more likes, the more comments, the more the algorithm pushes it out to more people, and it gets in front of them on that sidebar, and they have a chance of clicking on it and seeing and spreading the beaver galleon to the world. Do we know who the person is? I don't recognize the.
It was that same guy who had the problem giving us more money.
Ah, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I don't feel like shouting out his name, so I don't know if he wants to do that. But.
Yeah. Beautiful, good. Slow and steady, you know. We're slow and steady getting things happening. And that's very encouraging to us, guys. Because waking up early, driving across town, setting things up, no Wi-Fi, breaking it down, going somewhere else, scrambling, setting it back up. You know, it's a thing. A little encouragement is always good.
Makes work until 11:30 last night worth it.
Makes working till 11:30 last night worth it, says Joe. It's, and remember, Joe has more to do in life than just this. Joe's got kids. Joe has a wife. Joe has a vehicle. Joe has another job. So just, it's appreciated. It's appreciated. I was talking to some lady folks yesterday at the shop, and I think one or two might watch it. Now, this is a men's group when we're in person, but of course on YouTube, it's open to the world, and we always appreciate the lady viewers. So that's a lovely. Oh, I got a new mattress yesterday. Ah, this is a little thing to report. This was one of the Lord's sweet little kisses. So I moved into a new place, and our man Andrew set everything, and Kevin worked so hard in the basement. You haven't been down there yet, but it's beautiful. I mean, for a basement. I mean, it is a basement, but it's beautiful. The bed's set up. There's bookshelves. There's a work table, and I have my like altar out on the table. And then during Sabbath, I was able to put out the white tablecloth and do all the stuff there. I have a little coffee station down there with my hot water thing to heat it up. Andrew gave me 2 candles put into wine bottles. So in the morning I can light the candles and have the candle glow so it's really nice. The only thing that was not nice is the mattress was old. And not only was it old, it had one of those things that you put over it for like kids to not pee on it or something. It was like whenever you sit on it, it goes. I was like, man, I can't be sitting on.
Well, you are getting older. You might have that.
I was going to go that other direction. I'm not ready to go into the assisted care home quite yet. And so I was like, man, I wonder what I could do to get a new mattress. Like, how do I put the feelers out? What would I do to just get a mattress and put it on here? That's what my thought was that morning, yesterday morning. Then I get to the shop, and like I said, there's some ladies there, and one of the girls was leaving that day to go back home, and she had rented a room while she was here in this town, and she was like, "Yeah, I need to go sell a mattress." And I said, "You're selling a mattress?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm taking off. I have to go." Is it a single? She said, "Yeah." I said, "How much?" $40. So we immediately go over to her place, and I get the mattress and pop it in the back of the thing and put a beautiful new good mattress. If it's just so perfectly timed. And as I told her, she was like, "And even if you don't want the mattress, I'm going to need help loading it up if I can't sell it." So it would have been a burden on her. And then she needed help anyway. And I was like, would I rather go back to the house and hang out with Andrew, or would I rather go to your place and hang out with a cute girl? I think we know the answer to that question. So either way, it's a win. But the mattress was good. And so make sure the mic is, yeah. So yeah, got a brand new mattress. Having just thought about it that morning and needed it, the Lord's like, "Yeah, we got you. We got you covered." Those are the beautiful things that happen when you don't half-ass it, as Matthew McConaughey's dad said in the book Green Lights, which every man should read, as I've said before. The book Green Lights, he told his dad he was going to not go to college anymore and going to try to be an actor. And his dad was silent on the phone, you know. Here's my son telling me he's going to go be an actor. And then the only reply back from dad was, "Well, don't half-ass it." And of course he didn't. Matthew McConaughey killed it. I'd say he did a pretty good job. Yeah. So when you don't half-ass it, God tends to do things like that, unless he's putting you through a severe trial in order to test your patience and have you grow and all that stuff. But normally speaking, he's always there taking care of things. It reminds me of a story my mother tells of the woman across the street from her, she had helped all the time. She was an elderly woman. So my mother would go across the street and help her for no pay, of course. She would just go and help her neighbor. Well, that neighbor passed away. And it was like a year later, that neighbor's daughter was coming to clean up affairs for her mother and do some stuff in the house. And this daughter was in town. And it just so happened that my mother was in a financial strait. I think it was like $2,000 that they were lacking for rent and food or something. They were in like a tough spot. It was like $2,008 or something like that. And this woman comes over and knocks on the door out of the blue. And she says, "Hey, hi, I'm so-and-so's daughter. And I was like looking through stuff and I see how much you helped her and everything. Well, we got some money back from the estate and I just wanted to bless you." And she gave her like $2,008 and some odd cents. It was like perfect, just at the last moment. That's the kind of stuff God does when you don't half-ass it. And one of the things you can do to not half-ass it is to wake up early in the morning and study the Summa. Please, folks, join us on this Beaver Galleon. Wake up in the morning and put your head in the Word. One of the reasons that this Summa is such a good idea for a daily study is because you can, I know there's daily Bible reading things, like that's kind of popular. You have a daily Bible reading, or you have your daily devotionals, which you should still do. But think about it. there's something peculiar about the Summa, and that's why I chose it for this daily thing. When I first got the idea, which I got from our brother Yaakov, who does the daily Daf Yomi, the daily Gemara page, it's like, what would I do daily? And then I thought about the catechism, scripture, and then I just kind of realized the Summa has all of those things in it. The Summa is a catechism. That's what it's expressly set to be. It's a catechesis. It also has tons of scripture. It also has tons of church fathers and apostolic father quotes. It also has quotes from Aristotle and Avicenna and the Greek philosophers and Muslim philosophers. So you're getting this wide range of study from numerous sources that are all condensed, congealed, and into one catechesis. So you're getting all of these things in one through the limpid and clear mind of St. Thomas Aquinas. So it seems to me the best daily thing. You're getting your daily scripture. You're getting your daily study of Greek philosophers and what the others are saying, as Paul did on Mars Hill when he quoted the pagan philosophers. You're getting your church fathers. You're getting all of these things. And you're getting lively debate among the replies, the objections. So, guys, if you want something that's a daily, keep your head in the game, and a lens frame through which to look at the scriptures and your faith, and even if you're not a Christian, the interest of this philosophy that is, as I said, a condensing of all of previous Christian thought into the medieval thought, and then what all of the modern and postmodern philosophers are commenting on. They're commenting on all of these subjects that came together as a whole in the medieval thought of St. Thomas Aquinas. So even if you're an atheist and you're studying Nietzsche and Kant and Hume, you can see what these guys were replying to by studying Thomas Aquinas. So this seemed just like the perfect thing to do, and I encourage you all to encourage your friends to watch the Daily Summa, and if you're in the city we're in, you should show up in the morning and be with us, especially once we get everything more solidified. Right now, obviously, we're bumping around. We don't quite know where we're going to be, but there's coming a day where it will be more stable, and I would hope that all the fellows show up for their morning dose of reality. All right, let's get rolling on question 14, finishing up Article 6, whether God knows things other than himself by proper knowledge, and then moving into Article 7, whether not the knowledge of God is discursive. All right, let's roll. We'll just take the top of the page in the middle of this. He was giving his respondio. I answer that. So we'll just jump in the middle of it and see what shakes down. Here we go. As unity is to numbers, so, or as the center of a circle to the radiating lines, but as perfect acts to imperfect. As if I were to compare man to animal, or 6, a perfect number, to imperfect numbers contained in it, now it is manifest that by a perfect act, imperfect acts can be known not only in general, but also by proper knowledge. Thus, for example, whoever knows a man knows an animal by proper knowledge, and whoever knows the number 6 knows the number 3 also by proper knowledge. We've already said this. Oh, we got some kids running down the hill here. Cute. Heading to the bus. We've already said this yesterday, but we'll just repeat it. If someone knows what 6 is, then by the virtue of the fact that they know what 6 is, they have to understand what 3 means. Because if you're going to take someone to understand 6 that never heard numbers, like a little child who's just learning her mathematics, you have to show her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apples and say, this is the word 6. This is what 6 means, honey. This many apples. So by the virtue of the fact that she knows what 6 is, she has to know what 1, 2, 3 is. And she knows 3 perfectly. properly, you might say. She has a proper knowledge of 3. So God's knowledge of us is in his essence. And so he knows each and every part of our heart and act, everything, that step and aspect, like turning a diamond around and looking at all of its aspects. He knows every aspect of Joe. He knows every aspect of Craig. He knows every aspect of Steve. He knows you completely. And as it says in Scripture, you know all of our longings. They are all present to him. And he also knows what you are becoming that you don't know yet, as we continue on this adventure and journey of discovery of what we are. And through that lens and frame of what we are, the more we begin to discover ourself, our true self, the more from that lens we have a greater telescope, let's say, to see what the universal God is. This is why it's so important to remain in Malchus, the visible kingdom. That's why the person who begins to make a break with reality is making a break with themselves. If they're a man and they call themselves a woman, that's the most popular and obvious one nowadays. They're messing up their telescope. They're taking lenses out or putting Vaseline on one of the lenses, or perhaps even spray paint and covering it, so that their vision is not as good of the universe. And so the greater you grow in virtue, the more you'll have a cleaner eye. So as Jesus said, if the eye is the lamp of the soul, if the eye is dark, how dark will the soul be? That's a very mysterious phrase that Jesus has said, but I think what I just said can give some insight to it. Just like the telescope, if your eye is darkened, if your eye is cataract, you will not be able to see yourself or live yourself as truly and well, just like the telescope. And thus, you will not be able to see God as well. So you have to continue on your journey of self-discovery, which will, the more that is perfected, be a journey of vision, which will give you a journey of discovery and seeing God. As therefore the essence of God contains in itself all the perfection contained in the essence of any other being, and far more, God can know in himself all of them with proper knowledge. For the nature proper to each thing consists in some degree of participation in the divine perfection. Now, could God not be said to know himself perfectly unless he knew all things in which his own perfection can be shared by others? Neither could he know the nature of being perfectly unless he knew all modes of being. Hence, it is manifest that God knows all things with proper knowledge and their distinction from each other. All right, so let's do reply to objection 1. Thomas is going to go after Larry. So to know a thing as it is in the knower may be understood in 2 ways. In one way, this adverb so imports the mode of knowledge on the part of the thing known, and in that sense it is false. I'm not sure what that means. For the knower does not always know the object known according to the existence it has in the knower, since the eye does not know a stone according to the existence that it has in the eye, but by the image of the stone which is in the eye. The eye knows the stone according to the existence outside the eye. I had said that in like the teaching before, or the one before that. The philosopher says that whatever you see in the world in some way enters into you. The substance of the thing, obviously the matter doesn't enter into you. A stone does not enter into your eye when you look at it. But what stoneness is, or what horsiness is, does enter into you in some sense, in some degree. And your ability to apprehend it is dependent upon the mode of the knower. This goes back to the thing I said about the symphony. The person in the concert hall listening to the symphony, everyone in the concert hall hears the same symphony. But a dog, if it's in the concert hall, is going to hear the symphony according to its mode. I'm going to hear it according to my mode. Somebody who hates classical music is going to have a lot of things in their heart that's making them reject the enjoyment of it, and therefore they won't hear it as well. And Mozart, if he was in this in the room hearing the symphony, he would hear it on a deep level beyond what we are able. So even though the thing outside is entering into you, it's still only soaking in, let's say. It's only soaking into the sponge in as much as the sponge has the mode or the capacity to receive it. And if any knower has a knowledge of the object known according to the mode of existence it has in the knower nevertheless knows it according to its mode of existence outside the knower. That is, it has to be what it is in the outside, according to the mode of the symphony. So let's take that same symphony example. There would be a Mozart, or let's say Bach. Bach is trying to convey the Brandenburg Concerto No. 2. He writes it on the page. He has it in his heart and mind. Then he uses these little semiotic scribble marks to convey it over to your mind through the magic of semiotics. The ability for you to receive what Bach wanted to convey to you is dependent upon your mode of reception. That's true. But it's also dependent upon the mode of conveyance of the symphony orchestra. The Houston Symphony Orchestra is going to be able to convey Bach's idea over to you better than a college symphony at a what's that term? Not a private college, a city college, a civic college. There's a word for it that I'm blanking on. Community college. And then that community college will still be able to convey the idea over to you better than perhaps a high school symphony orchestra could. So there's numerous modes that have to be considered when an idea is coming through to you. Your mode of reception and the mode of that thing being conveyed to you, and how perfect, remember what we mean by perfect, how well you're making the fire in the fire pit while you're camping, how perfectly that fire is made, the wood is built up, determines how perfectly the fire will catch and convey to you. So the symphony orchestra, how perfectly they play it, will convey to you the perfection of that idea. So also with God. God is the perfect being, but he's conveying to us himself through many lenses and what is the word that the Kabbalists use? Through many veils. There's many veils that it's coming through. And this is split up in a fantastically complex and diverse reality. This is happening over and over. It's happening to you as you watch this video. My means of conveying Thomas would be different than Father Gregory Pine's. And it certainly would be different than if St. Thomas Aquinas were here teaching it. Each means of conveyance will be different in your mode of reception. All of these things are dependent. So that's the fun of this game that we're playing. If you play D&D, or let's say you play a video game, since most people know that, the conveyance of the excitement and the joy of story, because remember, I said before, God is story. The conveyance of God is conveyed to us through storytelling. That's why we all love stories so much. It's a means by which we're coming to intuit and gradually get to know what God is. The dynamics of story, which are famously spoken of with Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. And nowadays, I remember when I first got into Joseph Campbell, nobody knew who he was. This was back when I was like 19, working at Pilgrim Bookstore with Mark McNeil and Manuel Nunez, and we started getting into Joseph Campbell. But now everybody kind of knows that. And then also other people have written books about it, like this. I think there's one book that said something like there's only 7 stories and they all repeat. And that book shows what the archetypes of the stories are, and each story can be shown to that. Or you can break it down even smaller. Each story is actually just 3-part play, a 3-act play. Most everyone is aware of these things nowadays. So that's the conveyance of story. which is a conveyance of God. Well, as you watch a video game or play D&D, your ability to experience story is dependent upon the skill of the writer. How well does he write the story? How good is the story, in other words? And also, the story may be great, but what if the software developer sucks and the video game looks stupid and it doesn't work well? Then your ability to have your emotional, all the sphirot of the tree of life are not going to be bing, bing, bing enacted as beautifully as they could be if the conveyance of that story does not come through well. But when it does come through well, we all go, ooh, that's a good movie. Ooh, that's a good video game. Ooh, this was a good D&D session. Because those sphirot are being boop, 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 activated, and we're getting a greater view of the deity. So our intuition and our moving up the mountain towards God, is dependent upon how clearly story is conveyed to us. And that's why God has given us a certain number of years on this earth, so that we might seek and find. If one way is not working out for you, go find another. If one story is not doing it for you, go find another, and keep moving up the mountain and gathering more information, more boons, more magic items, as it were, and defeating more monsters until you become cleansed, and enter the top of the mountain, which is referred to as union with God, or an ecstasy or divine visions, as the saints did, coming closer and closer to God. And then finally, it will consummate in your deathbed, in which you will enter into union with him, please God, for everyone. Thus, the intellect knows a stone according to the intelligible existence it has in the intellect, inasmuch as it knows that it understands, while nevertheless it knows what a stone is of its own nature. Now he's talking about the thing where you can think about thinking. You can think about your understanding a stone. If, however, the adverb so be understood to impart the mode of knowledge on the part of the knower, in that sense it is true that only the knower has knowledge of the object known as it is in the knower. Everybody in the concert hall listening to Bach, I can't know how the dog knows it. I can't know how Joe knows it, even though we're all hearing the same thing. Only the knower knows exactly, and God knows exactly how the knower is knowing something. There's a separation between all of us. That's what is going to be one of the joys of heaven. Those veils will break down. When you look at your friend, you will actually be able to see how he's seeing. And the thing, how God has conveyed himself to him. We will all be enjoying each other's vision as one vision in God. The unity of that is phenomenal. It's actually not phenomenal. It's not a phenomenon. It's a immediate being. Well, it may be a phenomenon. I don't know. But you get little glimpses of that when you have a really golden night, as one writer put it. I can't remember who it was that said that, but golden moments when you're sitting around with your friends and family and everything's clicking and you're like, you feel like you really know the other person, or in a really good conversation when you feel like you really understand them. That will be all of heaven, more deeply and for eternity. Sitting around the campfire, that is the blessed and holy one. For the more perfectly the thing known is in the knower, the more perfect is the mode of knowledge. That's what I just said. We must say, therefore, that God not only knows that all things are in himself, but by the fact that they are in him, he knows them in their own nature, and all the more perfectly each one is in him. This is the beginning and setting up something Thomas will say later that might be somewhat scandalous. But Thomas will talk about God loving some people more than others. As it says in Scripture, Jacob have I loved, Esau have I hated. God will love each soul in the capacity that soul has made the vessel, that soul has made in this life through our choices for him to be received. It's as Jesus talked about the wineskins, stretching the wineskins to receive more wine. Some people, the saints are the perfect example, have stretched their capacity to receive the divine influx to a very great degree. And so we say that in eternity, God can love them more. God's love does not change. He is immutable. Just like we talked about the pillar and the cow moving around it, the cow moves. The cow can be closer or more distant from the pillar, but the pillar doesn't change. We can be closer or more distant to God. So that's using that same metaphor, but in closeness and distance. But the same idea is being conveyed with another metaphor, which has to do with capacity. And that's the wineskin stretching. But it's still the same idea being conveyed. The amount of the divine influx you are able to receive, or the closeness or the distance you are from him, depends upon how much of a kli or a vessel you make for yourself in this life. In that sense, God will love some people more than others, because some people by their choices have made it possible. And the Blessed Mother would receive the greatest influx of the divine light by a particular grace that she was given. But that was for all of us. All right, reply to objection 2. The created essence is compared to the essence of God as the imperfect to the perfect act. Therefore, the created essence cannot sufficiently lead us to the knowledge of the divine essence, but rather the converse. The divine essence leads us to knowledge of the divine essence inasmuch as we share in it. Reply to objection 3. The same thing cannot be taken in an equal manner as the ratio of different things, but the divine essence excels all creatures. Hence, it can be taken as the proper ratio of each thing according to the diverse ways in which the divine creatures, or the diverse creatures, participate in it and imitate it. That's just what I just said. All right, moving on to Article 7. The turning of the page today is sponsored by craigkinsey.locals.com. Go to craigkinsey.locals.com and sign up, folks. I do little locals videos from time to time, just showing kind of behind the scenes and what's happening. And sooner or later, we'll be doing Q&As on this locals after the show. Also, I wanted to offer up today's study for let's do it for Miss Gabriella, who was kind enough to sell me a mattress, and she was traveling back home. And let's offer up this study for Miss Gabriella. All right. Oh, good morning, Haley. Always a joy. We don't take you for granted. She's there.
Granite or granite?
Granite or stone. Yeah, Haley is always on the Beaver Galleon, man. What a rock star. That is her ministry, supporting Catholic content creators, right? Yeah. Do we know what her channel is called? Can we find that out?
Literally just Haley. I can throw it up here.
Yeah, throw up her Haley. Throw up her channel, guys.
All that little same text that's on the screen right now.
That's her YouTube channel. She makes a point. Her ministry is to support Catholic content creators. Thank you, Haley. Thank you. Article 7, whether the knowledge of God is discursive. Induction is what Sherlock Holmes does. Sherlock Holmes sees a footprint. He sees the depth of the footprint, knows how heavy the numerous suspects are. He takes note of that. He sees a speckled band, and he knows certain snakes. That's only for people who've read the book. He sees effects, and then he reasons back to the cause. It must be that person that's the suspect. That's induction. The question here is God's knowledge discursive? Discursive knowledge starts at a known principle and then reasons out from that principle. That's very usually seen in mathematics. If you know the principle of 2, and you know the principle of 3, and you know the principle of plus, Then you add those all together in your intellect, and you know that 2 plus 3 is 5. Does God work that way? Is God's knowledge discursive? And I think we know, since he's eternal and immutable and doesn't work in space-time, the answer is probably going to be no. Let's see what Larry says. It seems that the knowledge of God is discursive. For the knowledge of God is not habitual knowledge, but actual knowledge. Now, the philosopher says the habit of knowledge may regard many things at once, but actual understanding regards only one thing at a time. Therefore, as God knows many things, himself and others, as shown in Articles 2:5, it seems that he does not understand all at once, but discourses from one to another. Guys, I'm going to skim through these because, I think we kind of intuitively know that what these beavers are saying this morning is not true. We'll just get to what Thomas has to say about it. Further, discursive knowledge is to know the effect through its cause, but God knows things through himself as an effect is known through its cause. Therefore, his knowledge is discursive. Objection 3, further, God knows each creature more perfectly than we know it, but we know the effects and their created causes, and thus we go discursively from causes to things caused. Therefore, it seems that the same applies to God. All right. On the contrary, Augustine says God does not see all things in their particularity or separately, as if he saw alternately here and there, but he sees all things together at once. That is the argument from authority. Now let's see what Thomas says in his rational argument. I answer that in the divine knowledge there is no discursion. The proof of this is as follows. In our knowledge there is a twofold discursion. One is according to succession only, as when we have actually understood anything, we turn ourselves to understand something else. While the other mode of discursion is according to causality, as when through principles we arrive at the knowledge of conclusions. That's what I said about the math. The other, he's saying discursive, is when we just grow in knowledge. We know one thing and then that. I know how to play a G chord in a simplistic way with the top 3 strings, and then I move on because I've assimilated that. I move on to learn a full G chord, and then I learn to play the G chord instead of this style. I learn to play it in the folk style, stuff like that. We're moving from one more and more knowledge. The first kind of discussion cannot belong to God, for many things which we understand in succession, if each is considered in itself, we understand simultaneously, if we see them in some one thing. You hear the G chord all at once, and you understand back when you used to only know the top 3 strings, but now you're seeing it all at once. It's all within you. We understand simultaneously if we see them in some one thing. If, for instance, we understand the parts of the whole, we see different things in a mirror. Now, God sees all things in one thing, which is himself. Therefore, God sees all things together and not successively. Likewise, the second mode of discursion cannot be applied to God. First, because this second mode of discursion presupposes the first mode. For whosoever proceeds from principles to conclusions does not consider both at once. Second, because no discursion thus is to proceed from the unknown, or from the known to the unknown. Hence it is manifest that when the first is known, the second is still unknown. And thus the second is known not in the first, but from the first. It's so simple that it can be confusing. It's what I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know 6 from knowing 3. 3 comes first, though. First, you have to know what 3 is to understand 6. Now, the term of discursive reasoning is attained when the second is seen in the first by resolving the effects into their causes. That's 2 plus 3 equals 5. And then the discursion ceases. Hence, as God sees his effects in himself as their cause, his knowledge is not discursive. His knowledge doesn't move from one thing to another and then rest. It's completely always in Shabbat. God lives in eternal Shabbat. And he's sharing that with us through this space-time odyssey and adventure we're going through. Everybody, this is just straw. But straw can be used to catch fire to wood, which can heat your whole house, which is your soul. Study, meditate, ponder these things, go pray.